One evening, while having dinner with my husband and in-laws, our home phone rang unexpectedly. It was unusual for the phone to ring at that time. Curious, I answered. A woman on the other end started yelling at me. When I asked who she was, she shouted, "How dare you ask that? You're so rude." I calmly replied, "I don't know who you are if you don't introduce yourself." My in-laws looked concerned, and my husband gestured, asking if I wanted him to take the call. I shook my head. I could handle this myself. "Can you please tell me your name?" I asked again. The woman got even angrier. "I can't believe you don't know who I am. I'm never buying your eggplants again. From now on, I'll use cheaper imported ones." At that moment, I realized who she was. She was likely the wife of the president of the pickling company I had worked with for 15 years under an exclusive contract. "It's not easy to change things suddenly," I explained. "Our contract is for special locally grown eggplants. Wouldn't it be bad to switch to imported ones?" "Customers don't care," she snapped. "I can buy them for half your price. You're overcharging." I felt my patience slipping. Overcharging? These eggplants are unique and not easy to grow. The price is fair. Anyone can grow eggplants. Selling cheap vegetables at a high price is a crime. You should be grateful you're not being sued. I'm canceling the contract. What a rude woman. "Are you sure?" I asked. "You won't regret this?" "No regrets. I'll make more money without you. Stay away from us," she shouted and hung up. My husband, looking worried, asked, "Laura, are you okay? We heard yelling." My mother-in-law frowned. I sighed and began explaining everything. "I'm Laura, a 49-year-old full-time eggplant farmer. I've been married for over 20 years to my husband, whose family grows rice. We have 2 children, our daughter is in college, and our son recently got a job in the city. He once said he'd return when he found a wife, but I don't count on that." My in-laws and husband, nearing 80, still manage rice farming, while I, along with some part-time workers, grow eggplants for pickles. 15 years ago, I started growing a special kind of pickling eggplant famous in our region. These eggplants are delicious but very difficult to cultivate. They're fragile, disease-prone, and quick to wither. I first sold small batches locally, and then a nearby pickle company offered me an exclusive contract at a high price. It was a good deal, but I was scared of failing and breaching the contract. My husband reassured me, saying, "We have rice farming as backup, let's give it a try." So, I took the challenge. Every year, I improved my methods. Despite many failures, the pickling company expanded and started selling online, increasing their need for my eggplants. Other companies wanted to work with me, but I stuck to my exclusive contract. It wasn't easy. While the steady income was nice, I had to meet strict delivery demands. I considered quitting in the future when my in-laws retired and my husband and I focused on rice farming, but I respected the company's president, so I kept my promise to provide top-quality eggplants. Then, everything changed last month. The company president suddenly collapsed at work and passed away. "It hasn't even been 49 days since his passing," my mother-in-law murmured. "It was so sudden," she said sadly. "The successor won't be back for a while, right?" my husband asked. "He was training at another pickling company," my father-in-law replied. The president's son, who was supposed to take over, was still learning the business and couldn't return immediately. In the meantime, the company's executives tried to keep things running, until the president's wife stepped in, creating chaos. "I wonder why she isn't mourning her husband instead of causing trouble," my mother-in-law muttered. We all nodded. "I need to check what's happening," I said. "They can't just cancel a contract like that." The next day, I called the president's secretary. "Laura, I'm so sorry," she said, sounding exhausted. "You don't sound okay," I said. "I'm not. I think the company is going bankrupt. I just got fired, so I can't help anymore. I'm really sorry." "What? Fired?" I was shocked. She explained that the president's wife was behind it all. Without any business knowledge, she made reckless demands and mistreated employees. Apparently, she had always been selfish, which was why her husband never let her get involved in the business. But now that he was gone, she was ruining everything. She only cares about money. She's cutting costs by firing employees and replacing them with cheap labor, the secretary said bitterly. "Our company's selling point is its unique pickle taste, which comes from experienced workers. She doesn't get that, even with an exclusive contract. She has no business sense. You should walk away, Laura. I was horrified. After the call, I talked to my husband. Maybe it's time to cut ties, I said. But there's the contract, he said, looking uneasy. A few days later, we received an official termination letter from the company. The documents were so sloppy, even an amateur could tell they weren't legally sound. Seeing them, my husband and I made up our minds. We're not in the wrong, and since it's before planting season, this might be a good time to stop, he said. His words made me seriously consider quitting. I was worried about losing income. After all the hard work and experiments we did over the summer, things were finally going well. It didn't feel right to quit because of an unfair decision. My husband agreed. We'll figure out the money later, but I can't forgive how she treated you, Laura. It's their loss. Cheap, low-quality imports will never compare to the high-quality eggplants we grow with care. He was right. So, we decided to stop supplying eggplants to the company, even if they begged us to come back. When summer came, other pickle companies immediately offered us contracts. My husband and I carefully chose the best deal, and our income increased by 20%. We found new buyers and got so busy that I almost forgot about the rude president's wife. Then one day, my mother-in-law brought me a package of eggplant pickles. Laura, this is awful. It says locally produced, but that can't be true, right? The pickle company had claimed they would switch to imported eggplants, but their label still said locally produced. Suspicious. We opened the package and tasted the pickles. This isn't the same as before, my father-in-law said. They're using big eggplants instead of the small ones, my mother-in-law added. They're treating customers like fools. The taste is off, too, a part-timer commented. It's not just bad, it tastes rotten. I had a bad feeling. Could the president's wife be lying about using local eggplants? A few days later, during dinner, the phone rang. Hey, can you pretend you sold me your eggplants? I recognized the voice right away. It was the president's wife. I didn't sell you any eggplants, I said. Are you asking me to lie? Yes, if you say so, it'll save my company. Didn't you say you'd never contact me again? That was before. Look, you want money, right? I'll pay you. It's just a small favor. She was trying to drag me into her scam. No, thank you. I hung up and told my family. My husband smirked. She must have regretted it. There's no way she can fool people with those cheap eggplants. Actually, I had already heard from others that the company was in trouble. Many customers complained, and the company was even reported for fraud. Then, a few days later, please help, the police might investigate. The president's wife called again, her voice shaking. I never sold you my eggplants. I hung up. The next day, I got a polite call from the president's son. I'd like to meet and apologize, he said. That afternoon, my husband and I waited. The president's son arrived with his secretary and, unfortunately, the president's wife. The two men bowed deeply and apologized. Could you supply us with eggplants again? The son asked. I shook my head. Sorry, but no, you ended our contract. I felt bad for him, but we had already signed with another company. He understood. You're right, he said. We broke the contract, so we'll pay the penalty as agreed. At this, the president's wife exploded. What are you doing? We don't have to pay them, she screamed. It's the importer's fault for sending bad eggplants. We just need to find a cheaper supplier next time. So, you tried to save money and failed? That's exactly what Laura warned you about, my husband said. The president's son sighed. Yes, she was right. Then I asked the president's wife, are you still planning to label the imports as locally produced? Of course, it's more profitable. Everyone does it, she snapped. Her shameless attitude stunned us. That's when the president's son lost his patience. Mom, enough. I only brought you here to apologize, but I'm done with you. The president's wife went pale. I was just trying to make money. You only care about yourself, he shot back. That's not how a company should run. I couldn't stay quiet. A business isn't just about profit. It should be fair for everyone, employees, farmers, and customers. The president's son nodded. You're absolutely right. Then he turned to his mother. You've ruined everything. I'm cutting ties with you. You need to take responsibility for destroying Dad's company. For the first time, the president's wife was speechless. The company was soon investigated for fraud. The story even made the local news. Eventually, the business went bankrupt, and the president's wife was left with nothing. Meanwhile, her son and the experienced employees worked hard to start a new, honest company. As for us, we received the penalty fee from the broken contract and moved on. Later, our son decided to return home and take over the farm. He even found a bride who wanted to work with him. With that happy news, life on the farm became even more enjoyable.